Hello, good morning, everyone. Thanks to the convenience of Wiwik for the opportunity to engage with you. This is not how I had planned it, but as fate will have it and COVID 19 will have it, I'm not able to be physically present. But then that's part of leadership, right? The true test of leadership is when you're in a crisis and not when things are rosy. So we'll take the situation as it is and make the most out of it. I've had to record this video because I really wanted to engage with you, but I'm happy that at least technology affords me the chance to engage with you nonetheless. And hopefully by the end of the next 20 minutes, I would have had the opportunity to share some leadership lessons with you. So what is leadership? Leadership is generally described as the art of motivating a group of people to achieve a desired goal or a desired outcome. But I like the definition of George van Valkenburg, who says leadership is doing the right thing when nobody is watching. So leadership is not a role. Leadership begins with self. And in my story, I cannot say that, for example, I was a firstborn, so I was thrown into natural leadership roles while growing up. In secondary school, in Wesley Girls High School, I did not occupy any obvious leadership positions like being a school prefect or house prefect or dorm prefect. Neither did I stand for any elected position while in university, such as SRC, JCR, or Department Association. The best example I have of being in a leadership role is when in my final year of university, I was appointed to lead my project group for a process and plant design project. So I guess when it comes to the debate on whether leaders are born or made, mine will be an example of a made leader. The question then is, how did this seemingly quiet, reserved, unassuming chemical engineering graduate from tech end up rising to this position in a completely unrelated field? Over the past couple of months, I've had a lot of requests to share my leadership journey, and that has forced me to sit and reflect a lot on my journey and my past, deliberately think through how I got here so that I can share my story in a way that people can relate to and understand. So through that reflection, I have distilled my experience into what I call my leadership tripod. I've built a framework that I call my leadership tripod. So if you imagine a three-legged stand or a tripod as we know it, there are three main pillars, and you need each of those pillars to make the tripod stand. So what are these pillars? I call them the mindset, the skill set, and the heart set. The mindset, the skill set, and the heart set. These, I believe, are the three key pillars or the three key ingredients that you need to become a successful leader or to build strong leadership skills. Let's start with the mindset. So for me, the mindset is your thought patterns that shape your attitude and your worldview. Our minds are very powerful. The mind is a very powerful thing. It is our window to the world. If you think about a window on a building, you can use it to either let the light in or block it out. You can open it for ventilation, for fresh air, or you can also close it to keep out the wind. And the Bible even says in Proverbs 23 verse 7 that as a man thinks, so is he. You think about it. Everything you see now, technology and how it has evolved over the years, all the inventions and all the fancy things that we are using now started off as an idea. And where do ideas reside? It's all in the mind. What is your mindset? Do you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? The growth mindset is a mindset that believes in possibilities and opportunities. Everything is possible as long as you put in the effort and the work that is needed to achieve it. On the other hand, the fixed mindset majors in problems and impossibilities. Nothing works. Nothing is possible. It will never change. It can never happen. That is what characterizes a fixed mindset. When I was in secondary school, we used to have this term negespe. I don't know whether it still relates. So a negespe is someone who sees the negative or the problems in every situation. It doesn't matter what it is. They will find something that's an issue, that's a problem. So are you a negespe? Do you believe that there are no opportunities in Ghana and you can only make it if you travel abroad? Do you think that you can only get a good job if you know someone whom you know? If you don't know anybody, then forget it. But if you have to get it, then it means you must know someone in the organization, or you must know someone who knows someone who knows someone who can lead you to someone. If you're a lady, do you believe that the only way to make it to the top, to get promoted, is to get personal with your male bosses? Do you only see problems, or do you see the possibilities and the opportunities within the problems? These are very critical as you build your leadership skills. And I'll give you a story, an example of a situation I faced when I started out. So I graduated as an engineering student. I joined a bank, an international bank, went through an international graduate program in Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand. And this was for someone who had done nothing related to banking. And I didn't know anybody in that organization. I just applied online, went through the process, and got it. One of 5 graduates recruited that year, and the only female among the lot. So after the training, I identified a particular unit which I believed was more aligned to my strengths and what I wanted to achieve in the organization. And I requested to be sent to that department. But the line manager at the time had other ideas and believed that there was a path that everyone went through, and I should also go through that path. I wanted him to assure me that as long as I had done the minimum required time in the department he was sending me, he would send me to my department of choice. But he said, no way. Everybody went through that path, and I also had to follow. So I kept bugging him about wanting to move to my desired department until I think he just felt he was throwing me off and said, okay, if you want to go to the department that you want to, then you should go there and do what they do, get an approval, and then come to me. Once you come to me, we will decide on from there. So it was basically to get into commercial and SME banking in that space. And he thought he was just saying something to throw me off, and I told myself, this man doesn't know who he's dealing with. At the time, for those of you who know Accra a bit, I used to be based in a branch around airport, Opebia, and the department I wanted to be in was based at Tudu. So every day I would close from Opebia, get all the way to Tudu, sit with the guys in Tudu for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and learn what they do. That is where I learned to analyze a set of financial statements, understand what a P&L means, understand what a balance sheet means. And I put together a credit memo within 1 month, got it approved, and you should have seen me the day I got approval. I was jumping all over the place. So I called my line manager and told him I wanted an appointment to come and see him. He granted me the opportunity. I walked into his office very confidently and put the approval right in front of him and said, okay, you challenged me weeks ago and asked that if I really wanted to move to the SME department, I should put together a credit memo, get it approved, and then we can have a conversation. So here you are with the approved credit memo. Can I get my transfer letter to my desired department? You should have seen the shock on his face, but he was excited. And within 2 days, I got my letter to move to my department of choice. From that day, this line manager took an interest in me, in my career. And the interesting thing is that a couple of years down the line, the gentleman who I went to sit with, who taught me the ropes, who showed me what to do and how to do it, I ended up as their boss a couple of years down the line. So I could have just said that where I sit is too far off. I could have found so many excuses not to have bothered with taking up the challenge. But I took the challenge, and I believe that it played a key role in establishing who I was as an individual, how determined and resilient I was, and I believe that it shaped the various opportunities that came up my way later. So it's very important how you perceive situations, because that determines how you react to it, and that will in a long way determine your outcomes. We all eat every day to nourish our bodies. We go to the extent of even planning what we will eat. And the past week, I've heard Bernard and his team on the City Breakfast Show discussing our Ghanaian cuisine, and the way they discuss it and describe the food alone is enough to make your mouth water. But how many of us make a deliberate effort to nourish our minds? What is that one thing you read this week? What is that time of self-reflection or introspection that you had on a situation that you encountered that gave you insights or understanding about yourself, about someone else, about an issue, about an industry? That is very important. And how do you build your mindset? Look up to people who have been to places where you want to be, who have done it before. Find out how they did it. Ask questions and ask yourself what you need to do to get there. Read. I can't overemphasize reading. It's very important. Then the next point is the skill set. The next pillar is the skill set. And basically by skill sets, we are talking about what you can do. What can you do? Unfortunately, a lot of people these days are schooling without getting an education. And I know some of you can't wait to exit the four walls of this university and finally throw away your books and have your freedom. But what you are missing is that the learning never stops. First we had the knowledge economy. So it was what you know, right? I mean, when I was in university, we were told about the information age and how it's important to have information. In those days, we used to trek miles just to access an internet cafe and use the internet or send an email. So he who had the knowledge had the gold. But in this era of 5G, mobile technology, and artificial intelligence, just knowing is not enough. The dial has moved from what you know to what you do with what you know. So that is why a footballer or an artist who doesn't have a degree will make in a month what a university graduate can only dream of in their whole lifetime. It's not about what you know, it's about what you can do with what you know. I recently read a Forbes article that reported that when asked what they believe would most advance the career of a high school graduate, 60% of Americans responded that a Google internship would rank higher in their scheme of things than a degree from Harvard. It's the time to look beyond your certificates, your degree, or your class. Now it's about the skills that you acquired going through the university, not the certificate or class that you completed with. So the chew pour pass and forget era is long gone. Babadie and dieba, as we used to say in tech. So dieba is just focus on the things that are going to come in the exam and forget the rest. Unfortunately, that won't help you. The skills you need to make sure you acquire, irrespective of whatever degree you pursue, are skills like critical thinking and analytical skills. Are you able to look at a situation and evaluate it to take a decision? Logical reasoning. Can you present an argument and defend it? Communication and presentation skills. Can you influence your colleagues, your supervisors, your subordinates? Interpersonal and networking skills. Can you work together with other people? Can you understand people's behaviors and motivations and get them to achieve what you want them to do? I was recruiting for salespeople about 2 years ago, and it was in November, just around when the budget had been read. So after the standard introductory exchanges, tell me about yourself, why are you here, I asked them whether they had read the budget highlights or if they had followed any radio discussions about the budget and what their thoughts were about it. Come and see stammering. Now, the question is, if you're a graduate coming for a sales role in a bank, you want to be a salesman in a bank, and if you don't understand what the budget means for your role, for your job, then how can you sell to that trader in Makola, KJT, or Kotokraba, who, by the way, if I were to ask them about the budget, they can tell me specifically how it's going to impact their business, how they are going to struggle, how it's going to impact prices, how customers are going to struggle to buy their products, and what it means for them. So if the trader at Makola, who is not as educated as you are, can appreciate what impact the budget has on their business, then what excuse do you have as a graduate for not following the budget discussions and not having a clue what that does for you? So for me, it was very clear. That was a deciding factor on who was dropped and who moved on to the next role. And often I get people asking me how engineering relates to banking. I'm sure my profile must have been read for you, so you know that I came from an engineering background. Well, I understand numbers, if not for anything. I have strong analytical and numeracy skills. But I also do use a lot of the things I learned in engineering. I use a lot of engineering principles. So I solve problems from first principle. I use iteration. I use scenario planning and a lot of things that I learned in engineering. And these days, as I get to manage bigger teams and also as a parent, my newfound love is in the fields of psychology and philosophy. So the engineer turned banker is very soon going to be a philosopher and a psychologist. So watch out for me very soon. So please, the name of the game or the name of the program has changed from what do you know to what can you do. Please get with the program. The third and final pillar is the heart set. And by heart set, I mean the principles and values that you hold dear that define how you live your life. This may not be so evident in the beginning, but as you move higher and go up the ladder, it becomes the key ingredient that holds everything together. And once you build the right value system, you will not struggle with ethics. You won't have any issues with ethics. The question is, when your name comes up, what does it connote? What do you stand for? Can you be trusted? Do you have integrity? Now, going back to our definition, if you cannot be trusted to be self-disciplined, to be self-motivated, to do a good piece of work on the simple assignment on your own when no one is watching? How can you be trusted with motivating a group of tens or hundreds or thousands of people to work towards a common goal? As you start off your career, your skill sets and your mindset can carry you through to a point. But as you go further up, this third leg of the tripod is what gives you the needed balance and stability to continue to stay at the top. It becomes a deciding factor. If you take that out, the tripod crumbles. Many great leaders who are smart people with the right mindset have risen only to be let down heavily because they missed the hard set in the equation. So I'll end with the words of Lao Tzu, who says, "Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny." Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you the very best as you move on to the next phase of your life. Thank you.